Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And you know, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream here, Blue Collar Mystics. We are in this season of the Reality Transurfing Safari series with my dear, lovely friend, Abstract One, the one and only.
The Abstract One. I should have put the before it, right?
The Abstract One official. And yeah, we're happy to be here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you are live, we are live on Rockfin, YouTube, and the Facebook page. I can't go live in the Facebook group anymore for some reason, whatever. So I've been trying some different things out, and we've been talking about this book quite a few episodes. I think we've gone deeper than really most people don't really go this deep. And every week, maybe I'm saying the same thing where I'm like, this chapter is the best chapter in the,
I know.
But I forget, you have to revisit things. Whatever that thing is, you got to it's crazy. I heard somebody say not too long ago, when we read a book, we only retain about 10 to 15% of it. So that kind of makes sense. And I mean, I've even read this book dozens and dozens of times, and I'm still catching new shit every single time. We did a whole study on it, and everybody contributed, and we talked about it, and it's still
mind-blowing, right? Like there's this chapter, like, whoa, oh my gosh, like I know I heard it before, but I guess you hear it with new ears, or you read it with new eyes. And
yeah, it's been really cool too, because I'm definitely been reading the Kabbalion, and I wrote a little new sort of version of it. I'm going to do more formal summary, but I started to do a summary, and it was like, man, this is going to still be 2 hours. I'm just going to do a different version of it or whatever. But a lot of the principles and ideas are very, very similar. And it's really cool to be able to see a lot of these ideas in action, particularly in this chapter, the law of paradox and the law of polarity, dualism. It's crazy. But, we talk about that all the time in spirituality. That's a very obvious thing. But he adds pendulums to it and talks about how sort of religion, in large part, had become this structured thing where someone has to go to God on your behalf. And it becomes this do as I do, the rule of the pendulum, parody, really, of what you would think spirituality would be,
or what God is, really, even just the essence of God.
Sure, right? Like he's some man, right? He's some man on a throne and shit.
Yeah.
Who's angry and he's mad at you because you don't measure up, and he's fucking pissed, buddy.
Yeah. And he's going to throw you in a lake of burning fire.
That's right. Don't forget about that for sure. Because of just your natural impulses and inclinations.
Because you're only here to determine if you get to go back to heaven where you originated from, right?
Exactly. Well, that's an interesting, yeah. There was a lot of really interesting points in this particular chapter. I loved that point where he's like, why would your soul's in heaven and it's perfect. Why would your soul need to come here to be perfect? You know, your soul comes here to have this experience on this weird physical plane. And he talks a lot about the dual mirror here, and that we're basically playing on the surface of this mirror, and on the other side of the mirror is the alternative space. In the Kabbalion, they call it the fourth dimension, the dimension of vibration, which is basically the same thing. It's the alternative space.
Yeah.
All the different vibrations that exist or whatever, you know, all the information. And we come here to have an experience that's fun and unique, and to learn, and that our will is, and the things that we want are really no different than the will of God. It's all how nature moves. He talks about evolution and I love the way he talks about it in this book, because evolution always sounded so cold to me. And so, I don't know, just
Something's missing from it, right?
What's that?
Said like something's missing from it.
Yeah, like something's missing from it, and that we're sort of unfolding in all of this, and everything is looking for its goal. So we all have our own layer of the world that we are personally each, even the smaller beings, and the Kabbalion confirms that too. But like everything has its layer of the world, and it's all contributing to the entire fabric of existence. Everything that we experience, we are seeing it as creation playing out in real time.
I feel like this is the chapter where he goes kind of more in depth on the reality mirror. I don't know. I don't really recall it before, now that we've gotten this far into the book, where he really kind of explained that. And I know we've hit on it a little bit, but it really starts with the fact that reality is a mirror. You can just think of it as a dual-sided mirror. On one side, you know, like you don't change the reflection, you don't change what you want to, you don't change reality by changing the reflection in the mirror. Just like you said, Lehman had said, you know, you don't put shaving cream on the mirror and shave the reflection.
Right.
You have to shape it from the essence of the thing, and the essence of everything is on the back side of the mirror. It's the space of the realities, the alternative space.
Yep.
So you change it from there with, again, the coordination of heart and mind with your outer intention. And then when those are in alignment, then the image being reflected, which would be reality, this side of reality, will change and it'll shift. And I love it though, because he really gets into the idea of the assemblage point too. Like he talks about the Carlos Castaneda stuff, where the Toltec principles, where they talk about the assemblage point, which is a spot located in mid back, and allegedly, you know, according to the Toltecs, that this spot in the middle of your back is where every reality does exist. Like it's kind of like it's like a hand of a clock, except that instead of just moving in a circle, it can move every direction, every point in a circle, but then you think of it more as a sphere, so it can move out in different areas too. And that's where different realities exist. So people who are very stationary in the reality have a very fixed assemblage point. It doesn't move at all. But people who, he said, lucid dreamers, actually, this is what I liked.
Mm-hmm.
He said, people who are capable of intentionally shifting their assemblage point can shape reality and are lucid dreamers. So people who do practice lucid dreaming, you are working on like being able to shift your assemblage point. And that's where like clairvoyance and stuff comes from. It comes from being able to shift your awareness. And so reality obviously shifts then too, kind of like the Berenstein Bear, you know, when we're talking about those principles, like the nuance, the changing, like when you're turning the key and doing the transitions or transactions.
The clear sight.
The clear sight. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really good. Yeah. If you want to change the image, not the mirror, right? Like you can't change the reflection. You have to change the image. And that's where the cause is, right? It's back up into observer. And he talks a lot about like this too. He uses a metaphor and says that we're all a particle of God. And that's consistent with the Kabbalion too. The Kabbalion, the animating principle, the thing that makes stuff, you know, that's what it is, you know? And so we're all co-creating, but he says that God has taken on a role of observer, participant, and actor in the play. And so shifting awareness between those things and that essence being a part of you, that essence being a part of literally everything in existence, that's all working toward through evolution, whatever that grand master work is, whatever the great, that might be what the great work is, which is probably like unifying, like in the law of one, which is also consistent. Not to get off on
I know
I'm
it
not
totally
trying
does.
I swear to God, I'm not
but
trying.
It is totally consistent with law of one too, which is like this. It just all ends up coming together at some point,
right?
Because law of one even says that there is that the rocks, that you had past lives as rocks and minerals, and you had lives as plants and every little thing in between, the small creatures. So that they're different densities, you know, but the third density, which we're in, is the hardest one, because you forget that you're God here. And that's why it's so short. You know, if you lived a lifetime as a rock, how long was that lifetime?
Good Lord. I don't even want to venture a guess. Millions and millions of years, I'm sure.
Right. And so, and he does get into the idea of reincarnation in here. And he talks about how it's really the only thing that does make sense.
He's very explicit about it, in fact, you know, talking about past lives and a lot of the out-of-body experiences and stuff that people have, you know, as well. But that's his big main point. It's like, why would your soul come down here to try to be perfect and fight against your nature? The things that you naturally want, right? Like obviously within reason, I don't know, right? Like I'm not here. But the things that you want, the things that what your goals and dreams are the dreams of God, because you are a part of that. And your layer of the world that you are building is part of the larger layer. And you can't change anybody else's layer or make them do anything else, but you can work on your layer. And that's what you're here to do. That's what we're all here to do. So like the birds used to have claws on their wings and they adapted over time, you know. Was talking a lot about adaptation and evolution. What was missing in evolution, which we touched upon earlier, is the idea that everything has a goal, right? It's all working towards something. So the tree grows toward the sun, you know, whatever your goal is, you're working toward whatever that is. That's your goal. That's part of your evolution. Because the truth is, you can't really accomplish that goal as the person that you are when you start anyway. You're going to have like a transformation through that whole experience. You have to kind of become another version of yourself, or different, you know, a different version somehow. So it's fascinating the way that he explains it, because it's just so simple and intuitive. It's like everyone is here to create what it is that they are inspired to create. That's part of what the, you know, the great universe, like, I don't know, whatever cheesy thing. I mean, just say God, just call it what it is. He doesn't drop the God bomb until this chapter. And that's just how he's expressed it. And I think it makes the most sense. And he's like, we're all basically living in a dream of the Almighty,
Yeah.
each
That
playing parts.
every living being is a part of God. And
Yes.
you know this, every religion would probably say the same thing. That
Of course it will.
it is all part of God. But if you and so then he gets into like, well, where's the reference point for God? So then if like this is all God, so like if we were talking simulation, this is all simulation, then who's outside the simulation? Who created the simulation? What is God? Who created God? But he just said, you know, like that's not even something you can ever answer. So
It's
don't even try.
unanswerable.
Just stop. Just
Yeah.
stop even trying to answer that question, because it's just like a waste of energy. Enjoy this beautiful world, this experience, this lifetime that you get to have right now. This is why you're here. It's not to be pious and perfect and righteous and freaking like do your prayers however many times a day and all that. That's not what you're here for. You are here because you are God experiencing itself. So you are a part of God, and you're here to have the lifetime as you and to do the things that you want to do and create. You were created in God's image because God is a creator. So in essence, you are here to also create. That is how, not physically. You are not physically created to look like God. We're not saying God looks like this. He doesn't have this shell. He could just be straight up energy, plasma. I don't know. But the idea is that the essence of God is creation. Therefore, you are created in his image. So your essence is also to create, and that means creating your reality.
It's co-creating, yes.
Yeah.
100%. Because that's, yeah. Because you're just supposed to create whatever that thing is that you feel like you should, whatever's sort of showing up, right? He talks about how your soul is connected to that alternative space, and it can see sort of through the inward way, and the eyes are seeing the outside world, but we need to be able to connect to the alternative space. That's where all great ideas come from. That's where all insights come from. They never come from the external world. They always come from inside. And to tune in, particularly to listen to that, it's the rustle of the morning stars, basically.
And then he kind of gets into the whole, you know, how many horrendous acts were created in the name of God, like to please God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's persecute dissidents, and that's every religion. You cannot even say that it wasn't Christianity, because Christians did a whole lot of it all over the world, including the US of A with the Native Americans and all of that. So it's happened in the name of God forever. And if God, even if you think of God as a parent, a loving parent, like I would not want my kids to go out and freaking kill everybody who isn't going to fucking worship me. I'm sorry. I don't even want my kids to worship me. Does God even want you to worship him?
Right.
What if the highest form of worship is literally just living this life and living it to its fullest, like doing the things that you dream about, the things that the rustle of the morning stars that your soul wants to do. And I mean, because you'll have the people that are like, oh, you know, we go to church every Sunday, we pray, you know, do this and that. But I mean, that sometimes all of that, like, it seems like it's faith or whatever, or it is faith, but like they're just buying into a pendulum, for one. And sometimes it just takes you further from God, because how many people are there? Most of them are there because they're fearful.
Right. Yeah, it's guilt, duty, or obligation, right?
Yeah.
If I don't go to do this thing, then I'm going to have consequences. So therefore, I will do this thing, because otherwise I'm not a great person. People will judge me, whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong, obviously, with getting together and talking about, you know, cool stuff, or that's what we're doing kind of here. But
yeah. Oh yeah.
But it's true. Yes. The organized sort of systems, they degenerate into pendulums, and ultimately
ego
becomes, it ultimately becomes, you have to have a mediator between you and God, when it's like, you are God, right? Like, you are a part of God, or God, and God, or God's a part of you, in both of those statements, right? So it's like, you don't have to go to another. You don't have to do a ritual. You don't need anyone standing in between you and the ability that you have to just create.
Returning to self without looking around at others is the true path to God. Like, you don't find God in a book. You don't find God by looking outward and listening to other people. You find God by going within, really. And that doesn't mean that you have to spend hours in meditation. Not to say that meditation is bad, but again, it's listening to the rustle of the morning stars. Like, is it in alignment with your soul? Does your soul feel good about it? If it does, then it's good. Like, if it doesn't, then it's telling you not to do it. And it's as simple as that. You don't even need a book to tell you this is bad. If it's bad, it's bad. You know it's bad.
Right.
You know it's bad for you.
That's exactly right. It's as simple as that, right? Like, it's so simple, because I don't know. I mean, we all want to improve and become better versions of ourselves, or some of us do. I guess some people probably don't give a shit about that either. But it's like, whatever it is that you're compelled to do, it's like Emerson says this in Self-Reliance, where he was talking to one of his friends in the church, and they were like, well, what if the impulse is, because he's talking about understand. He's talking about listening to the rustle of the morning stars in the book. And he's like, how do you know that these voices, they come from above and not from below? And Emerson's answer to that is, well, if I'm the devil's son, then the devil's child I'll be a son of a bitch. He's like, whatever it is that I am, I'm going to fucking go full tilt on it. I'm not going to bitch out. If I am the bad person, I don't think anybody thinks they're a bad person, right? Everybody's the good guy in their story.
Yeah.
At least for the most part, right?
Hero's journey. Yeah.
Right.
Unless they're totally service to self. Some might realize that they're bad.
And some people are. I mean, I think some people are. But I think that's very rare. I think most people have the capacity. Most people are, generally pretty.
I mean, if there is an essence of God in every single person, then, you are essentially, that is saying that they are God. You are God. Like, you are the thing. And so you don't need a mediator. Like, my mom had God in her. She made me, and I have God in me. But does that mean that I need to, like, do I need to ask my mom for everything? No. Do I need somebody to talk to my mom for me? Like, if I am the child of God and you are a child of God, do we need an intercessor to talk to God? Just like you were saying.
Right.
We're all the thing.
Exactly. We're all the thing. And then, so I really think once we dig down and start to explore ourselves and listen to that rustle of the morning stars, we get a clearer picture from within the alternative space that our soul's connected to. We looked at that tarot card in one of the earlier episodes of the Lover's Tarot card, looking into that, and whatever that shows you is what you're supposed to do. Honestly, any of the things that I've ever done that have been in any way successful, it's always been that. It's never been the thing that I bought a course for $7,000 or what the fuck ever that was going to template and teach me how to make X amount of dollars, blah, 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 whatever, and implement this whole system, yada, yada, yada. It's always been the things that were completely unique. And I've gotten a lot of value out of any of the things that I've ever learned or invested in. I've learned lessons. Some were expensive, but it's like, I still got things from those particular, sets of information that was very helpful.
Absolutely.
It's just that I didn't cobble it together, right? Like, wasn't making my own sort of way. There's still a lot of techniques and different ideas that can be implemented, and then you need to understand how to build systems and other things too. But it's like, what is the thing that when you look inside, you just see it. You just see that thing. And if you go for that and start, being resourceful about how you can do it, use your mind as well, right? Like a heart and mind connection. All of a sudden you start putting something together that's really cool and unique, and it's different. And those are the type of things that are, I think, generally have legs in my experience. You know, not to say you can't do a build it out of the box type of thing and get something going or whatever. That's great. The information's not going to set you back. It will probably to help you learn certain aspects and skills, certain things maybe you didn't even know you were going to need to think about. But, you know, understanding that if you're following someone else's template, then you're doing a parody, right? Like if you're not coming from some place of just a clear vision, then it's going to be, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would say try to hone down on that and see in as much vivid detail as you possibly can from inside, because he's talking about inner screen and outer screen kind of in this chapter with your eyes versus your inner eye. And is that what he's talking about in the Dream Theater?
I kind of had to skip over that because I was running behind. But
I want to read this one quote though. It's so good. Like I was walking around and listening to this earlier, and I just thought, wow, this is powerful. It hit me pretty hard. And he says that you communicate with God by shaping the layer of your world, your reality. When you take joy in your creation, God takes joy with you. This is what true service to God means. Belief in God is above all belief in yourself and in your own strength as a creator. There is a part of the Creator in each and every one of us. Make the Father happy. As far as you believe in your own potential, you will believe in God and carry out the words He spoke according to your faith, be it unto you.
The language of the Lord is creation. I know. I loved that too. I have it highlighted as well. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's so good. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with you, too. Like, I don't know why that is just like, it's so embedded in the backs of our minds, I guess from pendulums, right? Like lots of organized religious structures and just social kind of shit. It's like, no, dude, like whatever it is that you are into, trains, whatever, it's no kink shaming.
Because that gets into the whole paradox of it all, right? Because like we're taught that we have this loving God, but if you're bad, He's going to throw you into hell, and nobody's ever seen Him, but He exists. But like there's all these paradoxes. So that is just total. Instead of like knowing God by going within, that's where the pendulums like pick up. Like, oh, this is a spectrum, so we can actually just take over and decide this and this, and if you don't listen to us and you don't follow our rules, and so that's where it starts swinging, is that there's just no clear definitions for it.
Yeah, and
so religion fills in the gaps for you.
That's right.
The good old religion pendulum. And you're hooked in by guilt and fear.
Yep.
And obligation.
Yep. That's how it does it. But yeah, I mean, it's so freeing to know, like, it's just your basic, ordinary, everyday movement is creation. Whatever it is that you're doing, it doesn't have to be like a painting or something either. I don't want people to think that.
Yeah,
what he's
like,
talking
oh my
about,
God, I need to be an artist.
Creating your reality is what we're, really emphasizing here, and using these principles, which we'll go into more in the next chapter, where he's talking about using some specific principles based on this. This is kind of more back to theory, because he's talking about the alternative space on the other side of the dual mirror. And that always kind of, I couldn't really understand that, the dual mirror thing, for
really?
a while. Not for a while.
That I understood pretty well, because it was like, oh, wow, okay. So we don't change reality on this side. We don't change reality from reality. You change reality by where your heart is finding in this map of everything. Like,
yeah.
that's the other side of the mirror. And so reality always reflects, and the way you get there is through like your thoughts. Your thoughts shape that. Your thoughts and your emotions, they shape what's reflected back to you.
It's like a
And that's what,
Polaroid.
yeah. So I really understood the gravitas of your thoughts from that. It was like, oh shoot. So, and even your words, what you say out loud. And then that you can go back to the whole Bible of it all. You know, the word was God. So what you say, especially, and I guess this would be kind of Neville Goddardy, but anything you say after I am is very powerful. Who is
Yeah.
God? He is the great I am. That's intention. That's creation, right? So anything you say after I am is something that you're potentially creating. And so the reflection of that, you shouldn't be saying things that you don't want to be or that you don't want.
Focus on what you do want to see more of.
And I think that spoken out loud, it's even more powerful because the word was God. In the beginning was the word, and the word was God. I think that's how that goes.
I like this one. If you look into a mirror and see spaghetti sauce on your face, you don't like the reflection in the mirror.
Only if you were slurping spaghetti in the bathroom in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
Just then you might have to wipe the mirror too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it just took me a while to kind of visualize that because everything being on the other side of that dual mirror, it's just like I was trying to see the image and how that sort of worked in my head. But, you know, on one side is we're on the surface of it. And then on the other side of it is literally every possibility through infinity. And so what we focus on in our layer, we're building into our layer, which is all we can really ever be responsible for.
It's like a fishing rod. That's almost the way I see it. It's like your thoughts are like the fishing rod, and it's freaking going right over that mirror, and it's freaking grabbing what it wants and pulling it into this side, into reality.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I was listening to this chapter and then it auto skipped and it went to part 2 of Tufty. And in that,
really?
yeah. And whenever it went, it was talking about creating the image and letting the universe basically do the work, that you just need to create the image. So kind of along the same lines of this, you know, just seeing that and allowing. I think there's somebody who has a term, I think, the illusion of action. And this is, I say yanging, we're yanging too much or we're yanging too hard. Which is hilarious, which is a funny metaphor, but basically the illusion of action is that if you do something, then you'll get a result. You know, you just need to do more stuff and then something will come as a result of it. But in reality, oftentimes we do get in our own way by overdoing too much stuff and yanging it too much. So I think that clear picture, sometimes it's worth it to just put more energy and effort on that front part. And if you don't have a clear picture too, there's nothing wrong with that. That's time to explore and have fun and be open and walk through whatever doors open up, you know, just to put that out there, because sometimes, you know, people don't necessarily know what it is that they see yet. And that's totally fine too. But just taking time to try to look and see it and then see more of it and then see the results and the things that happen, the circumstances that happen as a result of focusing on it, then that focuses on it more and it just begins to build a wave of fortune.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting how much he talks about lucid dreaming. Like, it's not just in one chapter, it's all throughout the book. And he really starts talking about it again in this book, or in this chapter, because he talks about subconscious dreaming. You know, when you're not aware you're dreaming and you're just in the dream and the dream's happening to you, and as the plot unfolds, all the things that you fear the most or whatever, they start happening. Those are the things that happen. The things that you expect happen. And that's really how we walk through life, subconsciously. And it's true. I mean, all the time. I still do it all the time. Walk through life subconsciously. I'm reacting to the script. And so lucid dreaming, that's what, when you become aware in the dream that you're dreaming and you start to control it, and you can do anything. Like, the potentials are limitless. And that's really our goal in life, is just to become lucid in life. Like, because we're asleep all day. Even if you're wide awake, you are asleep. Reality is like the waking dream of it all, because you're still dreaming, you're still asleep, and you're still totally in your subconscious. But this is the reason why we call this reality is this is what you wake up to every time. Like, when we go to sleep, we wake up to different sectors, different characters, different places, different.
Right.
But this is kind of the consistent end of it. But it's not any less miraculous, really. Science explains a lot of what happens in reality, but when it can't explain an anomaly, it either ignores it, or they try to debunk it by like, oh, this person's data is skewed, or there's no way that this possibly happened. They have to try to explain it, and instead of just seeing it as,
well, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, and it's something maybe miraculous shit, which is really just somebody doing some good manifestation shit, like pulling it from the alternatives space. So
yeah, all dreams, having a dream, falling asleep. And I've recently kind of started to notice more just the power of attention, especially anything that is kind of tedious. The value of that is very high, because it takes focused attention to focus on that, whatever that tedious stuff is. I mean, you have a limited amount of that ability to focus, but I kind of see that more as far as like what a specialized skill is. What is something that has a lot of nuance, or takes a lot of focused attention, and there's a lot of details to. There's a lot of you have to be very tedious about it. That's why I think it's a great thing to think about as far as leveraging skills and what you have the capacity to do, right? Like, I've learned a lot about this writing a summary, for instance, right? Like, it's a very I enjoy it, but it takes me to focus, or to sit down to write at all. It takes focused attention, and
oh man, that is so hard in this day and age.
it's almost impossible sometimes, right? Like, even yeah, it's like you're talking about getting swept up in the dream. It happens all the time. I sit down, I'm like, oh, I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes. My phone dings in 3 minutes. It doesn't actually ding, but you know what I'm saying? I hear a buzz or something, and I'm like, oh, or I'm like, oh, what was that idea? I'm going to look on my notes app on my phone, and then I open my phone, and it just goes straight.
Like, oh wait, I got notifications. Let me go here.
It just
wait,
opens
what
up
was
in
I
Instagram.
doing?
I'm like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
No, when I was in college and trying to, work ahead of time, I'd think of random things. I'd sit down and start typing on my paper, and I'm like, oh man, I should go clean the toilet. Like, just weird things, and it's like I couldn't concentrate until I went and did that thing. And it was like, I don't know. I realized procrastination has this place for me. Like, I'm better off with a tight deadline. Otherwise, I'm going to probably find 300 other things that are more important.
Yeah, you just have to throw your hat over the fence. You just have to make the date. You just have to put it on your calendar, and then you will have to do the work to get to that point. And even if it's not as, what you had in mind yet, it's fine. You just go. You just got to go. Came here for it. Just put it on the calendar. Just go. Just fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
make it. It's like, I want to make a video about this too, because like, this is straight out of a lot of these books. Like, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but instead of act as if, just act as. It's not, you don't take the if away. Just
just be it.
Yeah, let go of that. You don't need to act as if. Act as if. No, fuck that. Just act as. Just be the thing.
LARP.
stalk, LARP. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's it. But yeah, this one's, it's a banger.
It's like the idea of if you want to be a businessman and everything, but you slum around in sweats and hoodies all the time, like you're never going to buy into that idea that you can be the businessman unless you put on a suit and start walking around like a freaking businessman and feel the part.
Yeah, it needs to become ordinary. I think we talked about this a couple of
Mm.
episodes ago. There's like that 3-part process where you have the stimulation or the desire for something, and then you have the realization that you can have it, which is the most exciting part. And then when it comes, it's sort of ordinary by that point. But like the excitement is a lot, the allowing yourself to have when it clicks, and you're like, oh, then it's ordinary. Now you want to level up again, probably.
So do you want to talk about the Bronikov stuff?
I don't know too much about it. I looked into the Bronikov stuff, and you know, he's got haters too, but I do love
I
that,
know.
yeah. I do love that they mention it and that they have this whole school, because I've done some of the exercises and they're cool.
Yeah, you can download the whole first course, I think. And I did. I have it printed somewhere, but it's a lot of it is just chi exercises. So like, was it qigong, or I don't know how to say
Well,
it.
there's probably Toltec movement too. I think
Yeah, the magical
honestly,
passes.
yeah, because I mean, like the pyramids are in the, you know, I think the ancient Egyptian. He says that the Toltecs were the last of Atlantis, but I'm sure that was passed over to Egypt. I think they're the same. I think Toltec, ancient Egyptian, whatever, using intention to build stuff and do things.
Well, the Toltecs, yeah, but allegedly, like, because he's quoting like Theon Morris and Castaneda, so the Toltecs aren't even necessarily like we all think of that they're South American, but really they're all over the world
They're
because they
everywhere.
are the remnants of Atlantis. So it's not just one area. It's like it's not even one demographic,
Right.
which is kind of interesting.
In this chapter too, he drops some interesting points as well. He talks about the mind being a clean sheet. I don't know if we've talked about the blank slate thing, the tabula rasa. There's a couple of different ideas in, I guess, psychology or philosophy.
I think
Whether
we kind
you're
of got onto it on Heart and Mind a little bit,
okay,
like a
that makes
baby.
sense. Yeah. But it makes sense that I probably would have mentioned it then. But basically, he says that the mind is like a blank sheet. You know, it's adapting all this stuff, which is consistent. I'm reading it right now again, Robert Anton Wilson's Prometheus Rising. It's consistent with that too. He kind of outlines the whole process of sort of the nurture aspect of development, and is also super interested in being able to change imprinting. Change imprinting is really what Prometheus Rising is all about. But anyway, the heart sort of has this personality. It comes into the world, and then the mind is like a blank sheet, like a template, is what he says. But it's funny because the individual kind of perceives themselves as this ego, right? And many of the tastes and ideas that we're exposed to are not really even us. So talking about the individual's awareness of reality will often be just what they had been taught that it would be. But talking about the Bronikov stuff, they talked about opening up to clairvoyance, and the children that they were working with were able to access abilities to like play instruments and all kinds of stuff.
Like see with blindfolds on, which those I saw some of those videos, so I know like the people debunking it, so I see why they didn't believe it. But I do think that they were doing things that you can't you can't define with science. They're doing things. They are doing things.
Well, of course it's kids too, always, right? Like playing, just having fun, and they're so much more in tune, I think, with the natural ability to create, to use intention.
Because they haven't filled up their blank slate with so much reasons why they can't do this and they can't do that. They actually still, and everything's still a game.
Yeah,
When you're a kid, everything's a game. So they get the idea of not making it important. It's playing, it's fun.
right.
And we forget that. We forget that this is all a game.
Yeah, they
And
don't
that
have
this
all
is
that.
supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be an experience. It's a life experience.
It is. It is. Yeah, it is very easy to forget that and get swept up, in the game. But the game, some of us are just playing higher stakes games, but it's so true. And all that plaque he talks about too from the pendulums. It's like we have that natural innate ability too, like kids do. But over time, our like it builds up like plaque in there.
I just got my teeth cleaned today.
Oh, nice. I need to do that. I'm going to do that. Actually, I've been meaning to make an appointment. I'm actually going to see the doctor tomorrow. Just a routine.
Yeah, I had a 3-in-1. I had Dr. Dennis and physical therapies.
Yeah. I got to do the dentist thing. That's my next thing, which I'm going to do. Things have been starting to slow down a little bit. Last week was absolutely bananas. So it was actually probably a good thing that we could skip because it was just nuts, but we got through it. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, I had a sleep study. And you know how I knew I had sleep apnea? Like, because I did flotation therapy. And flotation therapy, you're floating in like highly salinic water. Like it's got like 8,000 pounds of salt in it. So you just float to the surface and it's body temperature. So it's like 93 degrees. So it's like your skin surface temperature. So you can't tell where your body ends and where the water begins. And then you're in a dark, pitch black room with earplugs in. So sensory deprivation. And you can't sleep, but like you get wild visions and stuff, what I would call like the liminal space, like right before you fall asleep, you start to dream sometimes while you're still awake. And that's basically what happens to you the whole time while you're in there. But I kept like realizing I wasn't breathing. So then I go, and I take a deep breath, even though I wasn't sleeping. So then I don't know, I had this feeling. So I made an appointment and did a sleep study, and they're like, oh yeah, severe sleep apnea. So I expect to be lucid dreaming pretty good soon once I get better sleep.
Well, shit. I mean, he says right here, in lucid dreaming, you remember who you really are. You are the person seeing the dream. But I love floats too. I actually need to go back and do that. I used to do a bunch of those with my friend Steve. And there's a place about 40 minutes from here. It's a bit of a drive, but it's worth it to go every once in a while. It's so useful.
Yeah, it was amazing. I don't even remember all the visions I saw. I remember laughing at my son one point, and then I like kind of sat up and because I realized I laughed out loud and I could hear myself laugh. I don't even know what he did. That's the funny thing. Like those full on hallucinations, like full on scenarios happening.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. How cool is that? Just crazy internal visions.
Did you not experience that when you did it?
I don't know. I don't think so. Did you eat some weed or something? Eat some edibles when you went, dude? No, I need to go back. I mean, it's just been a while. It's been a couple of years since I've gone, and I was out in the woods a lot the past couple of years.
You need to do a full hour.
I did a full hour every time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to do 2, actually. I think 2 would be awesome.
I could do 2. Except that I stopped breathing, so maybe it's not my thing, but I did enjoy it because the whole meditation aspect of it.
Can you take your sleep apnea mask in there?
I don't think so.
Darth Vader,
they have an oxygen bar though, so I could be like, hey, can I do oxygen? Wow.
Can you pipe this in?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I like what Honey says here. She says her aha moments, usually breakthroughs, come when she's having fun, and I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Remember,
Remember that you're really just a 12-year-old pretending to be freaking an adult, and everything should be fine. It makes it more of a game, and it's fun.
It is fine. And this is going to end, and we're going to be something else, something, who knows what, all entirely different after this, some other world, galaxy, some other being, who fucking even knows.
Yeah, he kind of gets into like one of the researchers who did a lot of interviews on people that remembered past lives.
That's
he
right.
said over 2,000, like over, and like little kid. A lot of it was little kids, but there was adults too. Like there was, and not only just remembering past lives. There was like a little kid who was sick, really, really sick, and in its fevers started mumbling stuff, and they didn't know what he was saying. They're like, this is weird because it sounds like almost like it's a language. Come to find out, he was speaking Aramaic, which is what Jesus spoke. It's a dead language. This child was speaking Aramaic.
Yeah, those two boys were like speaking it back to each other. It was him and his brother speaking it, and they were like, they thought it was just gibberish or something, and then
and then a little Yugoslavian girl, same thing. She gets sick, and then all of a sudden she's speaking some Indian dialect, like, and then this woman was in Germany with her husband. Like, I believe I don't know what country they're from, but they weren't from Germany. They go to Germany and they're in this little village, and all of a sudden she just starts crying because she recognizes the place, recognizes the people. Like, she was even able to ask about somebody who lived at a certain house, and the people are like, oh, you know them? Like, no, that person died, but just bizarre instances. And so you are a clean slate when you come here. There's a reason for that. So you can be immersed in the experience, I would say.
Yeah, that you forget all the other past lives, he says,
But if you have all these past lives, what does that really mean? It means that you are God.
Yeah, and he says that enlightenment is like being able to rise up above the city that you're in and see from a bird's eye view. And that even just getting your consciousness up a little bit higher, with the tools of transurfing, gives you a ton of basically leverage and understanding and being able to see perspective. Is really what it's about, shifting that perspective up into that higher eye, the center awareness, where the seat of awareness. I don't know. I've heard different terms for that now, and I'm trying to find the best ones.
If we were tufting it, we would say, I see myself and I see reality.
Mm-hmm.
Your awareness point, right?
Yeah.
Because that is above. That's above what's happening. This was a really good quote too. If you put all speculation to one side, what is God's real intention? The answer to this question, we will not guess or philosophize, but simply state the fact that the intention of every living being, one way or another, is to control their reality. And that's true. Every animal, you know this. Not judging or dealing out justice, fulfilling wishes and requests, not rewarding according to merit or punishing, not ruling over people or looking after them. The control of reality is what it's all really about. No one can do anything that God does not want them to do.
Yeah, it's all resolving into the higher mind, even if it doesn't seem like it. It's a struggle sometimes, but ultimately we are moving toward that unification once again with the all, as the Kabbalion says. The same thing as the law of one. All that stuff is the same, which is crazy, but kind of cool too. Yeah, the last quote here is pretty good too. He says, is God so powerless that he would have to struggle? He does not have to waste his efforts on the battle with an unyielding reality. He's capable of shaping a new reality in whatever way he desires. People can do just the same if only they can accept the idea that it is possible. So what is to stop you from waking up into the dream and exploiting your former privilege. If you are ready, the rest is just a matter of technique. The next part of this book will teach you how.
Ooh, I can't wait for the next part.
That's going to be next week, guys, 10 p.m. But yeah, the next one's the mirror world. And I had a friend and a client actually who's a brilliant guy. I mean, man, awesome dude. And he would listen to this next chapter over and over and over and over and over again. It's pretty dense. So it's the mirror world. When I was talking about not being able to really conceptualize the dual mirror, this next one goes into super duper depth about the dual mirror. And yeah, a little bit about that yin principle too, the yielding and allowing as well. But yeah, pretty cool.
Well, good, because I like the mirror, because I feel like that's where all the magic falls, is understanding how that works really well.
Yeah, this next one is it's a long one on the mirror and the how to use the dual mirror and basically bringing things into from the alternative space, which is awesome. Yeah, so we'll get into that next time. And yeah, we're doing it. We're going through this whole book. It's been a lot. We've done a lot of episodes. It's awesome.
I know.
It's really cool. I'm so glad too, because it's like, man, I was saying earlier, it's like that dude talks about how you only really retain 10 to 15% of what you read. And honestly, it might even be less than that for me. I don't know. Maybe when you listen too, it's like I listen and I read. I've listened and read a lot. And I don't know, like I said, dozens of times. I haven't really counted.
I never tested high in reading comprehension.
Yeah.
But I was an avid reader, so it was so weird to me that I was like, what?
But I mean, and that's fine. I mean, it just takes a lot, and especially a work like this, any of these esoteric works, it's like repetition. That's how we get into the habit. It's like you and I talking about how easy it is to get lost in a dream. And we've known about this stuff for years. And it's still, if you don't keep tabs on things, then it's pretty easy to get away from you. I mean, pendulums are good. They're good at what they do.
They're excellent.
But yeah, stay present, and it's a practice,
Do not ask, do not demand, do not struggle, just create.
Just create. I love that too. Just create. Just see it. Look within yourself and see what the picture is. That's where
your intention is the intention of God. You've got to keep that in mind. Like,
you got to keep that in mind. 100%.
And if it's the intention of God, then how can it not happen?
How can it not happen? And how can you doubt yourself? It's so easy for us to doubt ourselves, but it's like, no.
So who am I?
Who am I to? Well, you are.
I don't deserve those things. I can't have those things. Why can't you?
You are an agent of creation, and whatever it is that you feel like you should be doing or creating, or what your life should look like, it's your birthright to have those things.
And that's how you show God. That's how worship, or whatever word you want to put on it.
There you go.
That's how you honor God. Is to be the full manifestation of you.
Yep.
In this lifetime.
Honor God by creating your desired reality.
Yep.
Do it. And we'll see you guys next week with the Mirror World. We're looking forward to it. Thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat. Y'all are amazing. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And yeah, thanks.
Good night.
See you next time.